Hi, this is Jen Rubin, editor-in-chief of the Contrarian. We're delighted to have back Jess Piper, Democratic activist from the heartland of America. Jess, welcome.
Hey, it's so good to be with you again.
Oh, it is great to hear from you. Back by popular demand. Since the election in early November, there's been a lot more excitement in Democratic quarters. What's it been like in your area? Are Democrats more engaged, more optimistic?
They are. They're engaged. They're optimistic. They're looking at polls saying that Trump is, underwater. And this is something that we all knew because we talked to people, we talked to our neighbors who might vote Republican, but are feeling, not very Republican these days,
Yes.
especially with, some of the stuff that's come out as of late.
What is the main motivators for not only Democrats, but independents and even Republicans who are feeling a little iffy about Trump these days?
So a lot of people are avoiding talking about Epstein or acting like they don't know what's going on or it's a Democratic hoax or whatever. But things that they can't deny are their grocery bill and the fact that I'm surrounded by soybean farmers and they just had harvest and there's a few of them that are still harvesting. And so I'm seeing huge gravity wagons driving by all day long full of millions of pounds of soybeans that are going to go to a bin and sit there. And
Wow.
so everyone is well aware of what's happening. And then, of course, with the beef situation, with Trump saying he's going to bring in, Argentina beef, that's upsetting cattle ranchers in my neck of the woods too.
So closer to home in Missouri, they have come up with a proposition that they want to kind of take away the right to have propositions or make it more difficult, a referendum. And there is one concerning redistricting. So tell us about those. What's going on there?
There are several proposals, ballot initiatives going on right now. I think I've signed five. There's several for education, and people always say, Missouri's so red, and I always say it's absolutely not. It's uncontested, and you can tell by what we vote for in these initiative petitions. So we voted to overturn abortion. You still can't access reproductive care. In fact, they're going after banning another abortion pill right now. We just overturned it. We told them, several years ago, you can't gerrymander. We passed something called Clean Missouri. They undid that with the vote, and now they're coming after it again. And we know Trump leaned on Governor Mike Kehoe and said, find me another district. So they are taking Kansas City and they're planning to take this little district that encompasses just Kansas City and take it and spread it out through rural Missouri to try to pick up, what they think are going to be white conservative voters. And the problem is, we know that gerrymandering doesn't always work, and we can look over to Kansas to Sharice Davids and find out that it doesn't. And two, they think that we can't knock on rural doors. They're wrong. I'm a rural Democrat. I know how to do these things. And so, what they're ultimately trying to do, what you were alluding to, is now they're saying, because we have an initiative petition that says you have to respect the will of Missouri voters. And they're so upset about it that everyone in the state received a text from the RNC telling us, hey, did you sign this? Did you mean to? You might be in trouble for signing this. Take your name off before it's too late. We all got that text, and I'm so enraged because why does the RNC have my phone number, right? And why did they pay for this in Missouri? And I think you probably know they are so concerned about one Missouri district that they will throw everything at it, millions of dollars, whatever they need to.
Wow. What do you think the fate of that district is going to be? What's your sense of Missouri's attitude towards redistricting and defending the right to have these kinds of ballot initiatives?
Republicans, independents, and Democrats all love initiative petitions. We love to be able to put our voice on the ballot. And so I've heard from Republicans myself that are enraged who have said, I'm not voting for my state rep again because he overturned my will on stuff like, where we tried to, get earned sick time for people in the state. We passed it by almost 60%. They overturned it. And Republicans I know are furious about that. And so I think they're over their skis. I think they're in a whole lot of trouble in 26.
Wow. Now, you also have a governor who has decided to take away really most of the revenue from the state. Tell us about that.
So he just passed an initiative to with the Missouri GOP supermajority to get rid of capital gains taxes, which is about $625 million a year. It is done and it is over. And now he plans to phase out the income tax that people in our state pay, which is $9 billion a year that is collected, and it is two-thirds of Missouri state revenue, and he's just going to delete it. And you know what? We've seen this before. I can look to my neighbor to the west, to Kansas, and Sam Brownback, and we all know what happened. It was called the Kansas experiment, and it was terrible, and it absolutely decimated all of their services. Jen, when I moved, I was from Arkansas, and I moved to Missouri, a couple decades ago, not quite. And I wanted to move to Kansas because I found a town and a school and this house I wanted. But I found out they didn't have busing services for the school. And so I couldn't get my kids to school. So I ended up in Missouri. But do you know why they didn't have busing services? Sam Brownback and the Kansas experiment.
Exactly. Now, you said the Democrats are perfectly capable of knocking on doors in rural America. In the midterms, do you have your eye on any of the particular races that you think are really vulnerable, either state level or the federal level?
I think our congressional, Republicans are in trouble. I'm seeing them lash out and say things that they don't normally say. I'm seeing them raise money, and they haven't had to raise money in a long time because it's always, a very safe district. So I think those people are in trouble, and I'm planning to knock doors. I know everyone I know is planning to knock doors, and this is what we have to do is come back into spaces, even rural spaces, and knock doors and talk to people because we have to tell them it's the economics, right? I don't like to quote James Carville, but he says it's the economy, stupid, right?
Well,
And
right.
it is. Everything is about the economics. I talk to my neighbors. I just called my neighbor the other day because she wanted to talk about my Christmas lights. And we ended up talking about Trump and also what the Republicans are doing to states like Missouri. And she's a moderate, she's not necessarily someone who'd call herself a Democrat.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things I think Democrats have had a hard time learning, and maybe you're retraining them, is that even if you don't win a particular area, in some cases you can lower the margin of defeat, or if you go out this year, maybe not this election, but the next election, they'll come back. Talk to us a little bit about that kind of longer term vision of making connections, making sure that people know that Democrats are out there, that they're viable, that they're a party, that they have their interests at heart.
So we have to have someone on every single ballot, every single district, every single race, and making
Right.
sure that even though, like I ran in 22, I knew I wasn't going to win. We haven't elected a Democrat in 32 years. We have never elected a woman. But the fact that I got out and knocked doors and I was beaten badly, taken to the woodshed, I got 25% of the vote. But Jen, that's the problem. Democrats decided those 25% of the people don't matter. We can leave them on the table. And that's outrageous to know that there are that many voters who could come and not flip a district, but might flip a statewide seat. Or they will, vote for a referendum on the Republicans, and so the fact that we've decided it's not worth it is really telling. And a lot of people will say, that Democrats left my area, and they did, but you know who else did? And that's the Republicans. But the
Yes.
Republicans have something in every single town. They've got a church or two that is willing to preach politics from the pulpit. And so my neighbors go 3 times a week and hear that you can't vote for a Democrat, right? They hear that. And when I knocked on doors, people would say, I can't vote for you because I'm a Christian. That is intertwined in everything in these spaces. And the more we
Wow.
get out and talk to people, the more they realize, oh my gosh, I was born and raised a Southern Baptist, like I don't even know what you're talking about. So this is really problematic. And the fact that we've decided it's not worth it and we don't need them anyway has blown up in our face.
Yep.
And I've said this a thousand times, but the Republicans found out they tried a coup on January 6th, but they didn't need to do that. All they needed to do was come into states and take over state legislatures and attorneys general. And now you have this entire system that is working towards Republicans, no coup required.
Wow. Now, you have a senator, Senator Hawley. You have two senators, but let's talk about Hawley first of all, who talks a really good game. Suddenly, he's a fan of Medicaid, although he voted for Medicaid cuts. He's talked about food stamps, that is SNAP, but he hasn't really done anything. Do people see through this? He talks such a nice game, but he inevitably lines up right behind Donald Trump and does whatever Donald Trump wants.
They're really starting to pay attention now. I know because I've watched Josh Hawley rise through. He had this famous commercial in 2016 where he said, "I'm not a ladder climber," when he was running for AG. And so I was like, "Of course you're a ladder climber." Every single one of our last senators in the last couple elections has come from the AG's office. Eric Schmidt, too. Eric
Yes,
Schmidt is a white Christian nationalist, by the way, and he
yes.
absolutely, wants a white Christian nation, and he will tell you that. But Josh Hawley has this thing where he is able to pretend that he's like this populist that cares about the people. Every single time he votes against Medicaid, he votes against SNAP, and then he comes out with a different bill saying, "I want to fund Medicaid." Dude, you just voted in line with Trump. He is
Right.
lying. He is two-faced. He doesn't care about anyone in this state, and anyone who thinks he does hasn't paid attention. A couple times a year, he comes back to Missouri, puts on his plaid shirt and his boots, and shows up at a county fair somewhere. And like, oh, Josh Hawley. I know what he is. I know what he is, and so do most, I think.
So, what's the key for a candidate, Democratic candidate in Missouri? Is it the positions? Is it just talking like a normal person? What do you think? If you had to kind of come up with your dream candidate or candidates, what kind of qualities would you look for?
It's someone that knows their neighbor, someone who knows their community. Those are the people that can win. It doesn't have to be anyone with any specific qualifications, but someone who's from the area and understands. And it causes, when I would knock doors and people would come to door and they would listen to me and they'd agree with everything I said, and then they'd find out I was a Democrat, and it caused that cognitive dissonance because they're
Right.
like, "You don't look or sound like the people that I've seen on Fox News or OAN or Newsmax. Like, you don't even have blue hair," right? And the fact that I could say, "Well, I'm from this community, right? I live down the road from you. I taught your kid or I taught your grandkid." These things are important. So that's why it's so important to have those people on every part of the ballot, because in people's brains, there's a fixed idea about what a Democrat is, and
Yeah.
you cause confusion when you're just one of them and you're a Democrat.
Wow. So, over the Thanksgiving weekend, there's a call for some consumer boycotts of Amazon and Home Depot, and I'm forgetting the Target is the third. You know, some of these are small actions. You're not going to bring those companies down, economically down to their knees. But they do give people a sense that they have agency. How important is it for people to do something, whether it's a boycott, whether it's to turn out? Isn't part of the idea to try to get people not to feel like they're powerless?
Yeah, I was an American Lit teacher for 16 years, and I taught the words and the actions of the people who participated in the Montgomery bus boycotts. And I have to
Yes.
remind people it didn't happen in 6 months, right? It was over a year that folks were walking to work a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles every day because they said, "I'm not going to do it." And they finally brought them down to their knees. And this is what we have to remind people. You're right, it's not going to happen overnight. But what's happening to Target stock right now? What has consistently happened with Target? They can't get people back in their stores because of what they did with DEI. And people remember, I'm not shopping at Target. I haven't eaten a Chick-fil-A sandwich in 10 years. Now, did I bring them to their knees? No, but there are enough of us that recognize that we're not doing this. I don't shop at Hobby Lobby. I haven't, since that Hobby Lobby decision. So we have to remind people it takes time, put the pressure on where you can. We saw Disney, come back around and
Yes.
say, we're not, bring back Kimmel because we can't withstand this boycott. So just remember that you do have power. And we've known this for a long time, especially with women. The power of the purse, not shopping in specific areas, is so powerful. You're not going to see something happen overnight, but it will happen.
Absolutely. And folks, that's Friday, Black Friday through Monday. We ain't buying for those three stores. You can forgo your purchases. Last question for you, healthcare. Obviously, the shutdown did not bring about capitulation, but Republicans are still holding the problem. They're holding the exploding time bomb, which is healthcare costs. What are the kinds of prices people are seeing, and as that kind of reached the average person, that holy smokes, we're going to get clobbered next year.
I'm the average person. I pay $498 right now for my ACA coverage. It's $1,069 next year. I went online, they sent me the
Oh,
plan for the same silver plan. So I'm right in the middle, right? I don't know what I'm going to do, Jen. I don't know what my neighbors are going to do. Even if they're on Medicare, they're saying they're going to see a 10% rise. Our utility bills. So my neighbor that I was talking about, they're in their 80s. Our water bills have gone up 100%, 100% since last year. Our energy bills are going up because of the stupid AI centers, right? And now it's healthcare. And that's what I keep saying when people are knocking doors. You don't have to talk about the bathrooms kids use. You have to tell them about their high V grocery receipt and say, you see how much that is? You know how much that is? You saw how much the water is? We can't do this anymore. And by the way, if anybody says, well, the Democrats, we haven't had a statewide elected Democrat in Missouri since 2018. Who are you talking about? There is
right.
no one to blame except for the Republicans in 25 states because they have Republican GOP supermajorities and they have had them. And now we have Republicans trifecta at the federal level. So this creates great movement and energy for people talking to others. Friends, there is no one else to blame but those Republicans.
Absolutely. So when people say, "Oh my gosh, what should I do? What should I do?" What do you tell them?
Well, obviously vote. Now they're trying to take away our vote because they're gerrymandering, right? When people
Right.
say vote better, and I'm like, well, they gerrymandered us. But it's actually just showing up for your community, showing up even at those, local levels for school board, city council, county commissioner. You know how much, power a county commissioner
Yeah.
has?
Yeah.
All of these things and reminding people like me, I can't vote for any county office because I don't have one Democrat running. So reminding them, hey, stick your neck out. And if you stick your neck out, make sure you're helping that person. You asked them to run, Democrats, give them some money to help them reach the people. We have to remember that as well. Show up for these people. And obviously, vote, vote, vote.
Absolutely. Well, Jess, we wish we could clone you. Send you to every state, an army of Jess Pipers. But thanks so much for everything you're doing and for your energy, enthusiasm, and sharing it with us. And have a wonderful Thanksgiving.
You too. Good to see you, friend. Talk soon.
Talk to you soon. Bye bye.